My ex-wife, let's call her Evelyn Reed, informed me of her decision to divorce me over the phone. She casually mentioned selling our coastal residence to embark on a new life with her personal trainer. The call was jarring. A bombshell dropped from 6,000 miles away while I was in Brussels, Belgium, concluding a significant warehouse acquisition for a major American shipping firm. I remained calm, responding with a composed, "I understand. My name is Gregory Hayes. At 54, I dedicated 25 years to commercial real estate brokerage in Orlando, Florida. My expertise lay in identifying undervalued properties, overlooked by less patient, less meticulous investors. My career was built on thoroughness and an exceptional ability to spot details often missed by my competitors. Unfortunately, I hadn't applied that same level of scrutiny to my personal life until it was nearly too late. This occurred on a Wednesday morning. I'd been in Brussels for 5 days, immersed in the warehouse deal. 15 years of marriage, dissolved by a phone call. Mark and I require a fresh start, Evelyn continued, her tone exuding the self-assuredness I'd encountered in numerous tales of marital dissolution from colleagues. The beachfront property sold for a substantial sum. She'd already signed the paperwork. Mark Thompson, her trainer for the past 2 years, a 37-year-old driving a vehicle far beyond his means, who once brazenly inquired about the cost of my timepiece. I didn't react dramatically. Instead, I calmly inquired, "When did the sale finalize?" "Yesterday," she replied, a hint of disappointment in her voice at my lack of emotional outburst. "The new owners are moving in next week. I assumed you wouldn't mind staying at the hotel during your return, considering your frequent travels." Patricia Miller, my title agent for the past decade, and David Evans, my legal counsel since before Evelyn and I met. The subject line read, "Urgent suspicious property sale." Rain began to fall outside my window. Observing the city's hurried inhabitants seeking shelter, I reflected. 15 years together and Evelyn didn't truly know me. She perceived me as predictable, passive, someone easily swayed. However, she'd overlooked a critical fact. You don't spend decades negotiating real estate without developing effective asset protection strategies. And you certainly don't leave your life's work to chance, particularly when your instincts have been signaling trouble for months. I initially met Evelyn 17 years ago at a real estate summit in Miami. She worked for a high-end property management company, all sharp attire and ambition. Her confidence and quick wit captivated me. We married within a year in a small ceremony, just her sister and my brother in attendance. 3 years later, we purchased our beachfront home on Hilton Head Island, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and a deck with breathtaking ocean views. The purchase price was $1.4 million, nearly all my savings supplemented by a considerable mortgage. I spent weekends enhancing the property, while Evelyn focused on decor and entertaining. "This is our forever home," she declared, raising her glass on our first night. I believed her. For a decade our marriage thrived. She established her own interior design company, allowing for joint international trips during my business engagements. Paris, Rome, and Hong Kong became weekend getaways, or so I believed. Issues emerged 2 years prior. Subtle changes, decreased interest in my work, refusals to travel with me, shorter, less affectionate text messages. The gym membership followed. 5 days a week with Mark, a former collegiate athlete. Initially I was supportive, however. Unexplained charges appeared on our joint accounts. Expensive dinners, spa weekends, all without my knowledge. I didn't resort to confrontation, surveillance, or private investigators. Instead, I meticulously observed, documenting discrepancies, preparing for the inevitable. 11 months earlier, I discreetly placed the beach house into a revocable living trust. The paperwork was nestled among refinancing documents for our investment property in Tampa. Evelyn signed without reading, engrossed in her phone while my attorney patiently waited. "This protects us both," I'd assured her. It wasn't entirely false. It did safeguard the property, just not in the way she anticipated. From Brussels, after emailing my attorney, I closed my laptop, retrieving the property deed from my briefcase, a habit cultivated early in my career to prevent last-minute deal cancellations. The deed clearly indicated the Hilton Head Island property belonged to the Gregory Hayes Living Trust, with me as the sole trustee. Evelyn had no legal right to sell it. The irony wasn't lost on me. Earlier in our marriage, she'd mocked my thorough contract review practices. "Life's too short for small print, Gregory," she'd laugh. But small print became the cornerstone of my career, and surprisingly, my home's salvation. I called David from the Grand Place. "She can't sell what she doesn't own," he confirmed. "Any sale she initiated is fraudulent. The buyers have no legal standing." "And Evelyn?" I asked. "Selling property she doesn't own constitutes fraud. Criminal charges are possible, though I presume that's not your preferred outcome," David responded. "It wasn't," I admitted. Despite everything, I didn't want to see Evelyn face legal repercussions, but I wouldn't allow her to take the house. The county recorder's office has been notified, and any attempted property transfers have been flagged. Local title companies will also be informed. This sale won't proceed, David explained. It wasn't merely another man or the unauthorized sale. It was the casual cruelty, the laughter in her voice. Our life together meant nothing to her. I briefly informed my client of a family emergency, booked the first available flight home. During the 9-hour journey, I remained silent, an unsettling calm replacing the initial shock. I'd negotiated complex deals, exploiting pressure points for my client's benefit. Now I'd utilize those same skills for my own. This wasn't about revenge, but about justice, balance, rectifying the situation. Upon landing in Orlando, my path was clear. I wouldn't plead or salvage the irreparably broken. I'd enforce the contract Evelyn signed but never bothered to read. In real estate, signatures hold more weight than intentions, a lesson Evelyn was about to learn. I didn't inform Evelyn of my early return. I rented a vehicle, driving to Hilton Head Island. A black Porsche convertible, unfamiliar to me, occupied my usual parking spot. The front door was unlocked. Laughter emanated from the kitchen, Vanessa and a male voice discussing renovation plans. I quietly placed my luggage down, approaching the kitchen. Evelyn leaned against the island, a glass of champagne in her hand, wearing a dress I'd never seen. Mark stood behind her, his arm around her waist, gesturing at a tablet. They looked up as I entered. Evelyn's smile faltered momentarily. "Gregory," she began, surprise barely masked. "I didn't anticipate your return until Monday." "Clearly," I replied, glancing at Mark, who at least had the decency to remove his arm. "This is awkward," Mark stammered, laughing nervously. "I should probably leave, actually," I countered. "I'd prefer you stay." "This involves you as well." Evelyn's expression hardened. "We don't need to complicate this. I've been unhappy. We both deserve a new beginning." I nodded. "I agree entirely. Hence I've already discussed the fraudulent property sale with my attorney." The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about?" I placed my briefcase on the counter, producing the trust documents and property deed. "This house isn't yours to sell, Evelyn. It hasn't been for almost a year." Mark seemed bewildered. "You claimed the sale was final," he said to Evelyn. "It was," she insisted, uncertainty evident. "Examine the deed," I suggested. "The property is held in the Gregory Hayes Living Trust. You signed the transfer documents last June. Recall those refinancing papers you didn't read." She snatched the documents, scanning frantically. "This isn't possible," she whispered. "Not only is it possible, it's legally binding," I continued. "The sale is null and void. The buyer has been notified." Mark's confidence evaporated. "I'll wait outside," he mumbled, leaving swiftly. Once alone, Evelyn's shock transformed into fury. "You tricked me," she accused. "No," I corrected. "I protected my assets, standard practice in my field. You chose not to read what you signed. That's not deception, it's negligence." She attempted a different approach, her voice softening. "Gregory, be reasonable. We can split the proceeds. We don't need lawyers." "Lawyers are already involved," I replied. "And not just mine. The buyers are upset about purchasing property from someone lacking ownership. They're exploring legal options." "You wouldn't," she whispered. "I'm not doing anything," I clarified. "I'm simply enforcing legal ownership. Your next actions will dictate what happens." Evelyn's expression hardened. She grabbed her phone. "I'm calling my sister's lawyer. You won't get away with this." I nodded calmly. "Consult with an attorney. I'll stay at a nearby hotel tonight. To be clear, this house isn't being sold, and I'll be moving back in on Monday." As I left, she called after me. "This isn't over, Gregory." I glanced back. "Actually, Evelyn, I believe it is." Sunday morning, I met David at his office. He looked weary but determined, spreading documents across his desk. "There's more," he began. "My investigator conducted some research." He produced a folder containing bank statements, credit card receipts and property records I'd never seen. "Evelyn's been busy," David continued. "She opened a separate account last year, transferring approximately $190,000 from your joint savings. This struck me. That was a significant portion of our emergency fund. And this," he added, producing another document. "Preliminary paperwork for a retail space in Charleston. The lease is in her name, and Mark Thompson's. They're opening a fitness studio. The agreement was signed 4 months ago." I stared at the papers, processing the information. This wasn't an impulsive affair. It was deliberate, planned. They'd been working on this for months. The timing is clear now, I muttered. She wasn't simply selling the house for a divorce settlement. She needed capital for this business. David nodded. And one more thing. The buyer for your beach house? It's a shell company. Guess who owns it? Mark's brother, Robert Thompson. They attempted to acquire the house at below market value via fraudulent means, then likely flip it for profit after discovery. The situation became horrifyingly clear. This wasn't just Evelyn leaving for another man. It was a calculated financial scheme to maximize profits before ending our marriage. A cold, focused determination replaced my previous calm acceptance. This wasn't just about protecting my assets. It was about accountability. What are my options? I asked. David leaned back. Legally, you're in a strong position. The trust protects the house. We can freeze the joint accounts to prevent further transfers. As for the money she's already taken. He paused. That's more difficult. Florida is an equitable distribution state. She could argue it was her share of marital assets. And the fraudulent sale attempt? I inquired. That's our leverage. It's criminal fraud. Potentially grand theft, though I suspect you don't want your wife jailed. He was right. Despite everything. That wasn't my desire. But I wouldn't be a fool. Here's my proposal, David continued, producing another document. A fair but firm divorce settlement. She returned 70% of the transferred funds, waiving all claims to the beach house. You waive any claims to her new venture. A clean break, no charges. I studied the agreement. And if she refuses? David's expression was grim. We pursue all legal options, including criminal charges for fraudulent sale. But let's try the civilized approach first. My lawyer says you're bluffing. The house is joint property regardless of your trust trickery. See you in court. I showed David. He shook his head. She's receiving poor advice. The trust documentation is sound. Send the settlement offer, I decided. But prepare for court. I doubt she'll take the reasonable route. The remainder of Sunday was spent reviewing financial records and property documents. With each revelation of Evelyn's deception, my resolve hardened. This wasn't merely about a house. It was about standing my ground against someone who believed she could take what I'd spent decades building. Monday morning, I went to the courthouse. David had filed for divorce and an emergency motion to prevent any property transfers. By 10 a.m., it was official. Evelyn couldn't legally sell the house, even if it weren't protected by the trust. I then visited my bank, speaking with the branch manager, Richard Allen, an old client. Within an hour, I separated my accounts from Evelyn's, securing my assets. Anything else I can assist with, Gregory? Richard asked. One thing, I replied. When is the next automatic payment to Elite Fitness scheduled? He checked. A recurring $350 payment is set for tomorrow. It's been charging monthly for about 2 years. I nodded. Cancel that, and all automatic payments except utilities for the beach house. By noon, I'd updated my credit cards, informed HR, and contacted our insurance agent. I methodically untangled 15 years of financial entanglement. My phone buzzed incessantly. Evelyn, her sister, and a number I assumed was her lawyer. I ignored them. Around 2 p.m., I went to the beach house. Evelyn's car was gone, but the Porsche remained. I used my key. The locks hadn't been changed. Mark was in the living room, packing a duffel bag. He froze upon seeing me. So I was just retrieving my things, he said quickly. I remained silent. Look, man, he continued, visibly uncomfortable. This wasn't personal. Evelyn said the marriage was over long before I arrived. Where is she? I asked. At her sister's. She's upset. Said you're trying to ruin her. I almost laughed. Did she claim I'm the villain? He shrugged. She said you were controlling, trapping her while you traveled, and the business you planned to open with money from selling my house. My fault as well. His eyes widened. That's what I thought, I said. Tell Evelyn her settlement offer is at David Evans's office. She has 48 hours to accept before we proceed with a contested divorce and potential fraud charges. Fraud? Fear was evident. What are you talking about? Attempting to sell property she doesn't own. Opening businesses with misappropriated funds. Your choice. Mark grabbed his bag and left. One more thing. I called after him. The buyer, Robert Thompson. Your brother. Right. Tell him if he wants to avoid being implicated in a fraud investigation, he should formally withdraw his offer by close of business today. His expression confirmed everything. Within an hour, my phone rang. Brian. Jason Bennett had contacted the real estate agent, rescinding his offer. By evening, I changed the locks, installed a new security system. I ordered takeout from a seafood restaurant, Evelyn, and I frequented dining on the deck. The waves were constant, unperturbed by human drama. Tomorrow would bring more legal battles, angry calls, but tonight in my house I felt a quiet satisfaction. Not joy, but the certainty of standing your ground. 3 weeks later, I sat opposite Evelyn, in David's conference room. Her lawyer, a young man with an expensive suit, shuffled papers, trying to seem confident. Evelyn hadn't spoken to me since the kitchen confrontation, communicating solely through legal threats David systematically countered. This was a pre-trial hearing, but we knew it wouldn't reach that stage. The evidence was too substantial. Before we begin, David stated calmly, "I'd like to submit these as evidence." He slid across 3 documents: the trust deed, bank records showing Evelyn's systematic withdrawals, and a signed affidavit from Robert Thompson admitting to the fraudulent purchase scheme. Evelyn's lawyer scanned the affidavit, his expression falling. He whispered to her. Her face was rigid, but defeat was in her eyes. "We're prepared to settle," her lawyer announced after their hushed conversation. David nodded. "Our terms are simple. Evelyn returns $120,000 of the misappropriated funds. She relinquishes all claims to the beach house and other properties in the trust. Gregory waives any rights to her new venture and agrees not to pursue criminal charges. And if I refuse?" Evelyn asked, speaking for the first time. "We present this evidence to the district attorney," David replied. "Fraud over $100,000 carries significant penalties in Florida." Her lawyer placed a hand on her arm. "We need to discuss this privately." They left for 20 minutes. Upon returning, Evelyn wouldn't meet my gaze. "We accept the terms," her lawyer declared. I signed, watched Evelyn do the same. Her signature as familiar as my own after 15 years. It was over. 6 months later, I stood on the deck watching the sunrise. The property was different. I'd renovated, replaced siding, installed hurricane windows. The changes were symbolic, erasing the past to create space for the new. I learned through mutual acquaintances that Evelyn and Mark had opened their fitness studio in Charleston, smaller than initially planned. It was struggling. I felt no satisfaction, only a sadness for what could have been. The divorce was finalized. Clean, final. The settlement executed without further drama. Evelyn returned the funds, which I invested in a commercial property in Orlando. A small office building with steady tenants and reliable income. My phone rang. Patricia Miller, my title agent, checking in. She said, "How's the beach house?" "Improving daily," I replied. "Thanks for your help with the trust. That's what friends are for," she responded. "I found another investment property you might like. Similar structure to the beach house, but commercial. Good protection. Steady income. Send details," I said. "I'm interested." After hanging up, I continued watching the ocean. The waves were steady, predictable. There was comfort in that consistency. I finished my coffee, preparing for work. The house was just a house. Wood, glass, concrete. But it was mine. And sometimes, that's enough.